Have you ever walked into a room, a broken bar, and felt every eye slowly turn toward you, even when you said nothing? Have you ever wondered why some people are just drawn to you, even strangers, so like they've known you forever? It's not coincidence. It's not luck. It's something deep within you, a broken bar, something rare. It's your aura, that quiet, powerful presence that speaks even when your lips are silent. But here's the catch. You don't see your own light the way others do, because when you're the one carrying the glow broken bar, you forget how bright it really is. And that's why today, I want to reveal something powerful. Strangers tell you their deepest secrets. It starts innocently, a casual conversation in a cafe told to copyright, a shared glance in an elevator, or a stranger asking for directions on a park bench, and within minutes, they're pouring out parts of themselves they've never told anyone. You're left listening, slightly stunned, wondering why someone would confide so much to someone they just met. But it keeps happening again and again. People find themselves safe with you, even if they don't understand why. They sense something in your silence that invites honesty, something in your stillness that feels like a sanctuary. You don't demand truth from anyone, but it shows up anyway, because your energy doesn't push, it pulls. Your presence doesn't seek to dominate, it welcomes. That is a rare force, a magnetic aura. This phenomenon isn't about being friendly or extroverted. It's not about having the right words or the perfect body language. It's about who you are beneath the surface. People can feel that. They can sense the absence of judgment, the quiet power of someone who has made peace with themselves. And in a world full of masks and filters, that kind of realness is irresistible. Most people walk through life guarded. They wear armor made of fear, shame, or old wounds. They keep their real thoughts behind locked doors, terrified of being misunderstood or rejected. But then they meet you, and something changes. Their guard drops, not because you asked them to, but because your very presence feels like a space where it's finally okay to be human. You've probably noticed how people's tone changes when they speak to you. They may start off light, casual, and then suddenly a broken bar it turns. They share how they've been struggling with anxiety, or how they're grieving a loved one, or that they feel lost in their marriage. You never asked for this, but it keeps coming, not because you're intrusive, but because you are safe. And safety is magnetic. In your presence, people feel seen, and not in a surface-level way, but deeply, soulfully. You listen without the intention to respond. You listen without needing to fix. And that's something most people don't even realize they crave. Someone who doesn't need to solve their pain, only witness it. It's ironic, really. You may not feel special. In fact, you might often feel like you're just quietly existing, observing life more than participating in it. But to others, you're a sanctuary, a place of refuge they never knew they needed. You hold space. That's one of the most profound traits of someone with a magnetic aura. Holding space doesn't mean saying the right things. It doesn't mean having answers. It means creating an atmosphere where others feel safe to be exactly who they are, messy, broken, healing, raw. In a world that rewards performance and punishes vulnerability, your presence is a rebellion, a gentle revolution. And what's even stranger, many of these people who confide in you a broken bar, they barely know your name. You've barely shared your own story, yet they feel deeply connected to you. Why? Because human beings don't bond over resumes or status. They bond over energy, over frequency. And your energy says, I've seen darkness, I've walked through it, and I'm not afraid of yours. Your calmness doesn't come from ignorance of pain. It comes from having faced it, and choosing not to let it make you bitter. That is a subtle but powerful trait, and others feel it, even if they don't understand it. Sometimes, you'll walk away from these encounters carrying other people's emotions. You'll feel the weight of their story on your shoulders. You might even feel drained, wondering why you attract so much intensity. That's the shadow side of this gift. When you are a mirror for others, when you reflect their truth back at them, you also absorb a piece of their chaos. This is why it's essential to ground yourself, to protect your energy. Because while you are a vessel for others' truths, you are not responsible for carrying them. There's something ancient about this ability. In older times, such people would be seen as shamans, healers, or wisdom keepers, not because they had special rituals, but because their spirit was strong enough to hold the pain of others without being consumed by it. You carry that same strength, not flashy, not loud, but steady, enduring. You may have grown up feeling different, more sensitive, more observant, more emotionally aware, and at times, you may have seen this as a weakness, but in truth, it was preparation. Life was shaping you to be a vessel, to be the person others could come to when they had nowhere else to go. And now, even in the smallest interactions, that gift shows up. The woman in the bookstore who starts telling you about her divorce, the Uber driver who ends up crying in the front seat, the coworker who pulls you aside to admit they're struggling with depression. These aren't accidents. You are not just easy to talk to, you are spiritual accessible, and that's one of the rarest traits a person can have. But here's something important. This gift must be respected by you. Just because someone shares their pain with you doesn't mean they deserve your time, your heart, or your inner world. Your empathy is not a public resource, it's a sacred offering, one that should be given carefully, not freely to everyone who asks. You've probably noticed how some people come to you only in crisis. They unload their emotions, feel lighter, and then disappear. It's not malicious, it's just that most people don't know how to maintain relationships with the people who heal them, and that's okay. It doesn't mean your impact wasn't real, it just means your role was temporary, a moment of clarity in someone else's chaos. And yet, as powerful as this gift is, it can sometimes leave you feeling lonely, because while everyone comes to you for truth, few think to ask for yours. Few ask how you are. Few realize that the one who listens to every inch of broken bar sometimes needs someone to listen to. This is the paradox of the magnetic aura. It attracts others like a flame in the dark, but it also burns alone. You might find that you're surrounded by people who admire you, but don't understand you. People who seek your light, but never think to protect it. That's why self-discipline and boundaries are essential, because the world will always try to take more from someone who gives freely. And if you don't learn to protect your peace, you will become a container always being emptied, never refilled. But don't lose heart. This gift is not a burden. It is an honor. To be the person others feel safe with, a broken bar that is a quiet legacy. You won't always be thanked, you won't always be remembered, but you will have changed lives in ways that echo far beyond words. Somewhere out there, someone is living a better life because you listened, because you were present, because your energy gave them permission to be real, even just for a moment. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's the true measure of a powerful soul, and not in how loudly they move the world, but in how gently they help others find their own strength. You don't need to be seen by everyone, you just need to be felt by the right ones. Animals and children are instantly drawn to you. There's something quietly magical about the moment a child, barely old enough to speak, walks up to you and smiles with trust in their eyes. Or when a dog, wary and cautious around others, so calmly lays down at your feet, like it's known you forever. These moments don't happen to everyone. They're not random. They are signs, quiet, subtle signs of something deeper than logic can explain. Because animals and children don't respond to your resume, your clothes, or your social image. They respond to your energy, and yours is pure. It's one of the strangest yet most affirming signs of a magnetic aura, the natural, instinctual attraction that children and animals feel toward you. These beings operate in the realm of authenticity. They are too young, or too primal, to be fooled by the outer shell we present to the world. They are drawn not to how you appear but to who you are. When a child feels safe around you without knowing your name, without understanding your language, it's because your energy carries something familiar, something calming, something they trust. When an animal who snarls at strangers sits peacefully in your lap, it's not because you have a special trick, it's because your spirit speaks without sound. And in that silent language of intuition, you are saying, "You're safe here, I won't harm you." These connections often happen in unexpected places. You might be at a family gathering, and a toddler who hasn't said a word to anyone all day suddenly crawls into your lap. Or walking down the street when a cat you've never seen begins to follow you for blocks. You might not notice the pattern at first, but over time, you begin to realize that this keeps happening. And it's not just coincidence, it's a reflection of your energetic integrity. In a world where many wear masks, Your presence remains honest. That doesn't mean perfect, it means real. And children and animals are both incredibly sensitive to try to gravitate toward what is real. They're repelled by emotional turbulence, by hidden agendas, by nervous energy. But you carry stillness. You've made peace with your own chaos. That kind of balance can't be faked, and it can't be hidden. This kind of pull is not about being good with kids or an animal lover. It goes much deeper. It's about frequency. Your aura emits a vibration that says, calm, grounded, steady. You may have walked through fire in your life here, but instead of letting it turn you bitter or reactive, you've turned it into inner strength. And that strength has a softness to it, a softness that's magnetic to beings who can't speak, but feel everything. Most people don't realize how sensitive animals and children really are. They're constantly scanning for safety. Their survival depends on their ability to sense who's safe, and who's not. And when you walk into the room, even without saying a word, your presence answers their unspoken question, am I okay here? And when the answer is yes, they lean in. You've probably had moments where parents say, she never goes to strangers, or he usually doesn't like men, as their child wraps their arms around you, or the vet assistant looks shocked when the anxious dog you just met stops shaking in your lap. These moments are small, but they carry a big truth. Your energy does more talking than your words ever will. There's a quiet responsibility in this gift, because when these beings trust you, it's because your frequency is clean. You're not carrying malice. You're not radiating harm. You're not wearing a mask. Your inner world is not at war, and that's what makes your presence a refuge. But here's something few talk about. This gift can sometimes feel isolating, because while animals and children feel at home with you, adults often don't understand you. Grown-ups are so used to emotional performance, manipulation, and ego games, that your quiet calmness unsettles them. They don't always know what to do with someone who doesn't play by the usual rules, so they misunderstand you, mislabel you. Sometimes, they even avoid you. But not animals, not children, because they don't need explanations. They don't need proof. They just feel. This sensitivity often means you notice things before others do. You sense when a child is scared, even if they're smiling. You notice when an animal's bark isn't just aggression, it's anxiety. Your intuition is tuned, because your soul is open. And that's not something you can learn from books or training. That's something you become through inner discipline, reflection, and spiritual clarity. What makes your aura magnetic isn't loudness, it's stillness. It's not about being everywhere, it's about being fully where you are. You bring your full attention, even in silence. You don't need to entertain. You just need to be. And in that being, others, especially the most vulnerably, feel safe to exist without fear. You probably have a deeply empathic nature. You feel the pain of others. You sense when something's wrong before it's said aloud. And that awareness gives you a tenderness that's incredibly rare. A tenderness not made of weakness, but of wisdom. You've seen how cruel the world can be, and still, you chose softness. Still, you chose compassion. That's why these souls come to you. Because you don't just offer space, you offer peace. Sometimes, people will ask you, how did you get the dog to calm down? Or how did you get her to stop crying? But you know there was no trick, no magic phrase. It was your presence. Your energy entered the space, and it changed everything. It's easy to underestimate the power of calm soul, but to those who are constantly bombarded by chaos like a scared child or an abused animal, that calmness is salvation. To be around someone who doesn't want to control them, fix them, or used aim a broken bar is healing in its purest form. And here's something deeper still. Often, people with this magnetic pull toward animals and children have had to become their own source of comfort at a very young age. Maybe you weren't always protected as a child. Maybe you had to grow up too soon. Maybe the adults around you didn't know how to hold your emotions safely. And now, you've become the person you once needed. That's why others feel safe with you. Because you've walked the road. You've cried the tears. You've felt what it's like to be small, scared, and unseen. And now, even if you don't speak of it, That experience lives in your energy, not as trauma but as wisdom, as compassion, as softness. You don't just see people, you feel them, and that's the difference. Children and animals don't need to be understood logically, they need to be felt energetically, and you do that effortlessly, without trying, without needing validation. You simply offer your presence, and it becomes a balm. This trait is something to honor. It's not loud, it doesn't come with applause, but it leaves a trail of healing behind you. Whether it's a crying toddler who suddenly falls asleep in your arms, or a stray cat who chooses to follow you home in a broken bar, these moments are the universe's way of telling you, your light is working, even when you can't see it. You might not always be aware of your impact, but others feel it. Even those who can't speak it, even those who don't have words at all, they feel you, they trust you, and they remember you, not by anemia but by how safe it felt in your presence. That is the power of a magnetic aura. Not in how many people cheer for you but in how the most honest beings in existence, animals and children, are pulled toward your light without hesitation. You make people nervous for no reason. There's a strange kind of silence that follows you into certain rooms. Conversations slow, eyes shift, people hesitate, and often, you don't understand why. You weren't rude, you weren't loud, you simply walked in quiet, grounded, fully yourself, and suddenly, the energy shifted, not always in a bad way, but undeniably. It's not something you intend. You're not trying to intimidate anyone, but still, you feel it. People become nervous around you, a broken bar, for no apparent reason. This can be confusing, especially if you consider yourself calm, approachable, even kind. You may have spent years wondering, why do I make people uncomfortable when I haven't done anything? But here's the truth that few speak aloud. When your presence is powerful, it disrupts people, not because you're harmful, but because you're honest, energetically honest. And that honesty, even in silence, reveals what others are trying to hide. A magnetic aura doesn't just attract, it also confronts. Not directly, not intentionally, but through its purity. You carry clarity, and clarity makes others face their own fog. You've probably walked into situations where no one spoke a word, but you could feel something invisible had shifted. People sat up straighter, laughed a little too hard, chose their words more carefully. That's not arrogance on your part, it's awareness, and it's real. You are not afraid to be fully you, and that alone unsettles many, because most people wear emotional armor every day. They hide behind masks, personas, small talk. But when they stand before you, all of that feels thin. You don't tear it down, you don't even address it, but your calm presence makes them realize they are being seen, and for some, that's terrifying. It's not about you being threatening, it's about you being unshakably present. You don't flinch, you don't need to fill every silence, you don't seek approval in every glance. That kind of self-possession is rare, and when people come face to face with someone who isn't performing, who isn't trying to please, it forces them to realize how much of their life is built on pretense. You might notice this in everyday places. A new coworker seems overly cautious around you. A stranger acts defensive without reason. Someone laughs nervously when you speak, even when you're being kind. These aren't coincidences. You're triggering something deeper in them, their own discomfort with authenticity. Because deep down, most people are afraid to be seen, even though they desperately crave it. And here's what makes it harder. They won't be able to explain it. If you ask them why they're nervous around you, they wouldn't have an answer. Because it's not about what you've done yet, it's about who you are. Your aura speaks a truth that words never touch. And truth, by its very nature, is disruptive. There's a quiet intensity in you. You don't speak to fill space. You don't laugh just to belong. You don't say what's expected, you say what's real. Even your silence is full. That's why people can feel the weight of your presence. You bring your full self into every room. You don't leave parts of yourself behind just to make others comfortable. And while that's admirable, it can make others uneasy because most haven't yet learned how to do the same. You might not see yourself as intimidating. In fact, you may feel humble, peaceful, even introverted. But what you see as neutrality, others feel as strength. And not everyone is ready to meet that strength. Because to do so, they have to face where they're weak, where they're unsure, where they're pretending. There's something you carry, something ancient, grounded, elemental. It's not about status or style. It's about soul. People feel that, even when they don't understand it, especially when they don't understand it, it makes them fidget. It makes them second-guess themselves, not because you're judging them, but because your presence invites honesty, and many are not used to being honest, even with themselves. You've probably had people make strange assumptions about you. They might say you're too intense or hard to read. They may avoid eye contact, or overcompensate with forced friendliness. Some may even see you as arrogant, simply because you're not performing for their comfort. But the truth is, your energy is simply honest, and honesty unmasks everything around it. You may have experienced this since childhood. Teachers, authority figures, or even friends sensing something different about you. You didn't always have words for it, but you felt eyed up their discomfort, not because you did anything wrong, but because your mere presence exposed the truth of the room. You could feel the tension no one acknowledged. You could sense the lies behind the smiles. That's a heavy awareness to carry, and yet, you've learned to hold it with grace. And here's where the Stoic spirit rises in you. You don't need their comfort. You've made peace with your own presence. You've accepted the silence others fear. You've walked through solitude, through misunderstanding, through misinterpretation, and you've remained steady. That's what people feel when they meet you, a steadiness that doesn't ask for permission to exist. In a world obsessed with performance, your stillness is rebellion, your groundedness is a challenge. And that's why some people's nervousness isn't about anything you've done yet. It's about what they haven't done. They haven't looked inward. They haven't faced their own shadows. And your presence reminds them of that. But don't shrink. Don't dim your light just to make others comfortable. You were not made to blend in. You were made to mirror, to reflect, rather not through confrontation, but through authenticity. And yes, some people will avoid you for that, but others, those who are reading, will be drawn to you in a way they can't explain. Because while you may make some people nervous, you also make others feel profoundly safe. Those who are tired of pretending, those who are hungry for truth, they will find refuge in you. They will breathe easier in your presence, not because you fix them, but because you remind them it's okay to just be. That's the paradox of a magnetic aura. It attracts and unsettles at the same time. It brings healing to some, and discomfort to others, but it always reveals, always. And if you carry this gift, know this: you were not meant to be understood by everyone. Your role is not to soften yourself for comfort, but to stand, calmly and unapologetically, in your truth. You are not here to fit in. You are here to radiate something deeper. And whether others see it, fear it, or try to run from it, a broken bar, it doesn't change what you are: a force, a mirror, a calm flame in a chaotic world. So if people seem nervous around you without cause, don't take it personally. Take it as confirmation. Your light is reaching to aim, even if they don't yet know how to receive it. People project onto you. It's a strange and exhausting experience to live in a world where you are constantly misunderstood, not because of anything you said or did, but because people are busy having conversations with themselves while looking at you. When you carry a magnetic aura, people don't always see you. They see their own fears, desires, guilt, wounds, hopes, and illusions reflected through you. And instead of understanding you, they project all of that onto you. You become a mirror for people's unresolved inner worlds. Some will admire you for qualities they wish they had. Others will resent you for qualities they deny in themselves. Some will trust you without knowing why. Others will distrust you, also without reason. That's the cost of walking through life with an energy that reflects truth. You don't just show people who you are, you show them who they are. And many aren't ready to face that. You may notice that strangers seem to make snap judgments about you. They either love you instantly or avoid you entirely. They might tell you their life story without knowing your name, or they might bristle when you walk into a room, despite your kindness. People you barely know might decide you're arrogant, mysterious, kind, cold, dangerous, or divinity, all without asking a single question about who you really are. That's projection. They're not seeing you, they're seeing themselves through the lens of what they want you to be, or fear you might be. It's painful sometimes, especially when someone blames you for a wound you never caused, or accuses you of motives you never held. You may walk away from conversations thinking, where did that come from? You feel the disconnect between your intentions and their reaction. You replay your words, searching for some wrong note. But it's not always about what you said. Often, it's about the movie already playing in their mind, the one they cast you in without your consent. That's the emotional weight of being energetically clean. You highlight the mess in others, not by confrontation, but by contrast. Your clarity becomes a backdrop against which others can't help but notice their confusion. Your peace reminds them of the chaos they carry. Your honesty exposes the lies they've been telling themselves. And rather than sit with that discomfort, many will take the easier route out. They'll make you the problem. You become the villain in someone's unfinished story, or the hero they never had. You become the savior they're waiting for, or the threat they're avoiding. But rarely do they pause to ask, who is this person really? That requires inner stillness. Most people are too busy reacting to their own reflection to seek the truth of who you are. This dynamic can show up in relationships. You may find yourself repeatedly cast in emotional roles you never auditioned for. The fixer, the healer, the cold one, the unavailable one, the rescuer, the threat. And no matter how carefully you speak, how clearly you express yourself, people seem to hear what they want to hear, see what they expect to see. That's because projection isn't about clarity, it's about comfort. People project onto you because it protects them from having to look within. It's easier to say, "You're intimidating," than to admit, "I feel insecure." It's easier to say, "You abandoned me," than to say, "I depend on others to regulate my emotions." Projection allows people to remain asleep to themselves while pretending they're awake to the world. You carry a kind of emotional gravity. People sense the depth in you. Even if they can't name it, they feel it. And that depth becomes a canvas. Those who have done the work may approach you with reverence, openness, curiosity. But those who have avoided their inner work will react with fear, resistance, or false assumptions. And here's where your discipline matters. It takes immense strength not to internalize the projections of others. When someone misjudges you, criticizes you unfairly, or treats you as if you are someone you're not, the natural reaction is to defend, explain, or prove. But your power lies in not taking their projections personally. You learn to see their reactions as information and not about you, but about them. This awareness turns suffering into wisdom. You stop asking, "Why do they see me this way?" and start asking, "What are they trying to avoid within themselves?" That's not arrogance. That's insight. That's refusing to carry what doesn't belong to you. You become selective about who you let close, not out of fear, but out of clarity. You've learned that not everyone sees you clearly, and not everyone deserves the energy it takes to help them see. You give your truth, calmly and without apology, and let their reaction be their own. That's how you protect your peace. There's another layer to this. People who project onto you are often drawn to you with intensity. They sense your depth, your awareness, your silence, and they mistake it for what they've always longed for. They put you on pedestals, call you different, worship your energy, but they're not loving you. They're loving who they believe you are. And the moment your humanity doesn't match their fantasy, the projection shatters, and often, they turn cold, distant, even cruel. This cycle is painful, because you didn't ask to be idealized. You were simply being yourself. But people weren't in love with your truth. They were in love with the idea of you. And when the idea fades, they can't handle what's left, so they blame you for not being their fantasy. They accuse you of changing, when all you did was exist as yourself. These experiences can tempt you to shrink, to become smaller, quieter, less visible. You may think, if I'm less noticeable, maybe people will stop projecting onto me. But your energy is not something you can hide. It radiates, not because you want attention, but because you're aligned with something deeper. Your peace is loud, even in silence. Your clarity can't help but be seen. So the answer is not to dim yourself. The answer is to root yourself, to become so grounded in who you are that others' projections can't penetrate your sense of self. You stop trying to be understood. You start standing in your own truth, whether or not others understand it. And here's the beauty of it. Over time, your clarity starts to attract people who are also clear, people who aren't looking for someone to project onto, but someone to walk beside. People who have done the work, who can see you as you are and not as who they want you to be. These are the ones who see your calm not as coldness, but as safety. Your silence not as distance, but as strength. The more you stay true to your energy, the more you repel those who seek fantasy and attract those who value reality. And that is the great reward of carrying a magnetic aura with integrity. The right people will find you, the ones who don't need to project, but who simply want to connect. Until then, let people say what they will. Let them imagine what they must. You are not responsible for the stories they write in their heads. You are responsible for your truth. That is enough. That is powerful. That is peace. You prefer being alone, but you're never lonely. There's a sacred silence in your solitude, a space that doesn't echo with emptiness, but hums with fullness. While others run from quiet, you lean into it. While most people panic in the absence of company, you thrive in it. Not because you don't love people, but